Hey guys, so in 2009 I lost 20 pounds in 2 months. It's pretty rapid weight loss. I knew nothing about keto, didn't know anything about Atkins, had the typical assumption that fat should be avoided. Fat you eat, fat you wear. That's false. So that being said, I just knew that when I ate carbohydrates, I had trouble losing weight, felt bloated, didn't give me energy, it made me hungry often. So when I would want to lose weight, I'd just instinctually low carb it, and I'd manage to kind of become less puffy. I'd lose the weight and I'd feel better. Of course, I'd go off of it and put the weight back on, but like everybody else. So that wasn't keto. I wasn't going high enough in the fat. I was giving fruits. But I lost weight, man. I lost weight, you know, and it was really successful. Why? It's very simple. All you got to do is restrict your carbohydrate. Restrict the carbohydrates to 20. So for this diet to start, if it's confusing and overwhelming, here's what you got to do. Avoid pasta, rice, any grains, breads, legumes, and you really have to seriously limit your fruit intake because that's sugar. If you limit the source of fuel that your body usually uses, because we eat carbs, it has no choice. It doesn't matter what you're eating on the other side, if it's too much, if it's high protein, if it's higher fat one day, it doesn't matter. If you don't have sugar, it's going to use your fat. So that's what I suggest. When you're going to start here in the keto diet, just avoid the sugar. This will give you access to your fat storage. Therefore, you don't even need to up your fat on a keto diet at start. Not if you're in the weight loss phase. The mere restriction of those sugars will allow you to have access to your fat stores, will start losing fat. The only time that I would increase my fat intake is if I'm hungry. If you're hungry, add a little more fat. If you're not, especially if you're really, overweight, you won't feel hungry because you'll be using your fat. But people that go on a keto diet and go a little too overboard on the fat, they do end up still losing weight because the hormone influence is so awesome on a ketogenic diet. But they definitely don't get down to the lean body mass. They definitely plateau. I plateaued for months at 185 when I went down from 225, which was great. But I was like, man, I still got a little bit of fat here and there. I'm like, why isn't it continuing right to the end? And it's because I was putting too much cream in my coffee. I was eating, basically putting a little coffee in my cream. So I was supplying all of the nutrients that is necessary, all the fat, but that meant my body didn't have to go get my fat. So when you're in the weight loss phase of the ketogenic diet, all you got to concentrate, because it could be overwhelming, restrict your carbs to 20 and eat whatever you enjoy. Okay, if you're lost and you're not sure what to eat, start the first 2 weeks rotating animal proteins. Have some eggs and bacon for a meal. Have a pork chop with some veg. Have some salmon with some veg. Have a salad with olive oil and eggs, homemade dressing. Have a lot of have some cheese. Have some almonds. Mix that stuff up. But you notice I didn't say anything about the oils. Have some avocados. Have some olive oil. Have some olives instead of olive oil. So by doing that, you are getting fat. People tend to look at the animal sources, like the steaks and the pork chops, as the protein source, and then after they think they got to go add fat. There's about like 30 grams of fat about in most you know, in a decent sized steak or pork chop. So you might not realize how much fat that you're intaking. I wouldn't even up the fat. I just would not be afraid of the fat, and the only time I would increase the fat is if I'm hungry. So don't go overboard at the start when you're on a keto diet with the fat, because you have ample fat that we'd rather you be burning than just supplying tons of oils and keto coffees in your face, all right? And if possible, the olive oil in the States, 90% are tainted with at least some amount of the vegetable seed oils, okay? So I'm a little skeptical, not about real olive oil, but about the quality of our olive oil. So what I would do is eat olives instead of olive oil. Eat an avocado instead of avocado oil. But, you know, with a salad, add a little bit and stuff like that. Just don't go overboard drinking oil, okay? All right, guys. All right, hope this helps with a little bit of the confusion. All you got to do is restrict the carbs and then eat everything else. And don't go out of your way to eat the fats. Only look for fat sources increased if you're still hungry.